Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I want to share with folks that this is being recorded. And we are at 1 o'clock, so I will go ahead and get started as people come into the Zoom room. I want to thank a few folks before beginning to share some information with you today. First, I'm Carolyn Thomas, and we have Kristen Stang, who is here with us, helping with monitoring the chat and making sure that we have good Q&A response. Estela Zarate is here as well, and she, along with Sue Swarat, who is out in the world of participants, has been leading the COACHE survey efforts thus far. Today's time together, this is really a check-in because we're at this interesting point in the what we thought of as the COACHE survey initially, and now really is the broader project of looking at faculty job satisfaction. And we're at this inflection point between, oh, hi, Sue. Sue's here. Excellent. Between launching the process, getting the data, and then reading the data and understanding what the data is telling us so that we can work on things to improve the experience that our faculty have here at Cal State Fullerton. And the purpose of our time together today is to let you know just sort of a recap of what has happened thus far. Some of you know and have been following, some of you may not know at all, and we want to share that with you. And then also to let you know what's coming next, especially since there are opportunities for everyone to participate. And the more that we are able to get perspectives on the data that we now have as a result of these two different quantitative and qualitative investigations, the more that we have input from faculty, the better ultimately the change will be that we'll be able to make on campus. Okay, next slide. Today's agenda, quick overview. So why are we doing this? The COACHE survey overview, our focus group summary of findings, next steps, and then how you can participate. Next slide. We're doing this because faculty success is critical to the success of our campus, and as the slide says, to our students. And I think, you know, because on our campus, our students are really such a priority for us, thinking about the ways that getting a college education is able to change their lives and the lives of their communities, and the role that that plays in our region. We are often talking about student success, but as we do this particular work, it's really an important point for us to remind ourselves constantly that it's faculty success that is behind student success. We have many important partners on campus in that work to support our students. Our students are coming here for an education, and our faculty are the ones who provide that. As a result, it's important that we ask ourselves the question, how are we doing, and what are faculty experiencing in different areas and in different locations on our campus? In order to do this, we're taking two approaches. The first one is we partnered with COACHE, which is a collaborative that's based out of the Graduate School of Education at Harvard, to engage in their 3-year cycle of faculty job satisfaction surveying. And the COACHE survey, that instrument went out to all tenure track faculty and all lecturers who have a teaching load of 12 or more, of over 12 units. At the same time, we wanted to make sure that we're also looking at the whole picture of our faculty, and that also necessitates looking at the experience of part-time faculty. So in order to find out the ongoing experience and get the feedback from faculty who teach less than 12 units, we commissioned the SSRC in order to help us do that work. So what we ended up with as a result is a survey that is both qualitative and quantitative, a survey instrument that surveys many, many people on the coach side and surveys fewer people, but a very intentionally representative sample of folks on the side of what the SSRC did for us. We'll start with COACHE. So COACHE is a 3-year project, and in those 3 years, the COACHE folks who have been doing these surveys for many, many years out of Harvard, and they do this on campuses across the country, they have a very intentional approach. So in the first year, it's about surveying the faculty. We had a 43% response rate on our campus, which is a good response rate. That is a response rate that lets us know we can take action on the results that we get. I also want to say thank you every time I talk about this with any group of faculty. Taking the time to respond to the survey in a thoughtful way it's just so important. And I know for some faculty, there's kind of we get surveyed a lot and we don't know what that really adds up to. So thank you for trusting the process, that if you took the time to do the survey, we would take the results seriously. This is step 1 in doing that. The dissemination phase is about sharing the results. That's the year we're in now, 22-23. And then also having a group of folks really look deeply at those results, who have all of the tools to know how to read the results so that they can make recommendations for action. Then next year, in that COACHE 3-year process, is that year of action when we will be looking at a few areas that the survey really pointed out for us that we need to improve, and taking the steps to make those improvements. I want to look just briefly at survey response rate. We had a high rate of response in NSM. We had a lower rate of response in CBE. And in the middle is sort of an array of response rates across our colleges. You will see that parts of COACHE identify college-specific strengths and areas of concern. And it's good for us to know we have different response rates, especially our first time out. There are 9 themes in the COACHE process. You can see them all listed here. We focused on 8, so that 9th area that has an asterisk on retention and negotiation. We didn't subscribe to that. It's an additional cost to the survey, and COACHE doesn't recommend doing that in the first year that a campus implements this tool. And if I didn't say it previously, COACHE is not an instrument that's designed to be used once. It's a continuous cycle of improvement. So our commitment is to do this now, and then to stay on that 3-year cycle as we go forward, so that over time we have longitudinal data, and we can see when we take steps to make improvements, whether those improvements actually were felt by our faculty, as subsequent surveys can reveal. Within those 8 themes in the COACHE survey tool that we used, each of those is comprised of these benchmarks. And so this is an example here of the theme nature of work, and then resources and support. So you can kind of see how there's a meta category, and then they break it out into those sub questions. And they use a 5-point Likert scale that comes together in an overall result for the theme. One of the key features of COACHE is that every institution is compared to peer institutions. This is a group that we can compare our performance to. We selected these peer institutions, and by we, that was led by an earlier group that had participation from all kinds of folks across sectors, to make sure that we were coming into this survey really looking at our results against other universities that are similar to us, where the faculty experience could reasonably be assumed to also be similar. And so when you see in this that there are things where we have strengths or areas where there are concerns, that's where those concerns and strengths come from. So it's not just any university in the country, it's these specifically. It's also helpful just to keep in mind that I think, you might look at some of these results as you look into them subsequent to this time together, but you might dig in and say, well, wouldn't people feel this way anywhere? Or how do we know this is really something that's worth looking at? The reason that we know is because when something is a strength, it's because we're at the top of the list of our comparable peers. And when something is a concern, it's because we're at the bottom of that list. And here's a little overview of our strengths and areas of concern. In the big global picture, this is what the analysis that COACHE did has provided for us. And we're going to go with a much deeper analysis than this in the work that a task force that's been pulled together that I've already charged. That task force will be looking into the details in all of these areas. But I thought that you would be interested in seeing just right off the bat today where we can see our strengths and our areas of concerns. And as I look at it, these are things that probably look familiar to many of you. Our shared governance, the way that we work across administration and faculty on areas of common concern, and our academic senate in particular, a strength, the benefits of our working in our system, the strength, focusing on leadership at the chair level, a strength, and really clear guidelines that comes across that faculty feel like they know what's expected of them in tenure achievement, in our tenure policies, and in the specific promotion that comes to full professor. And on the areas of concern, really appreciation and recognition of faculty is something that came across. Opportunities for collaboration and interdisciplinary work, having a shared sense of purpose as a campus for faculty. What are we here to do? What does it really add up to? How are we participating in something bigger than ourselves? And then the three components of the triangle of teaching, service, and research. So what is the work? What's the work that's expected? How is the work rewarded? How are those things clear and understood? How do faculty experience their work on our campus? Those are areas of concern, and personal and family policies. We also, in addition to COACHE, did part-time faculty focus groups. I want to thank Laura Giltrejo for doing this work for us with her SSRC team, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. The sampling strategy was to focus on a broad group of faculty and then focus it down so that we ended up with individuals who really represent the experience of our part-time faculty. We want to thank 210 faculty who expressed interest in participating, and 30 of those were selected based on the following characteristics. And you can look here and see what we tried to do was have a representative sample of our part-time faculty. We wanted to make sure that we had representation based on gender, ethnicity, race across various colleges on campus. We also wanted to make sure there were folks with 3-year contracts and also those who don't, and people who are teaching at that upper bound of between 9 and 12 units, and as well as individuals who might teach 1 to 5 units for us. Here's the procedure outlined. These were conducted in May of last year, and it was a semi-structured discussion guide that was led by Laura, and it received input also from our academic senators and the CFA. Overall, what we know is the conditions here that are strengths of working at Fullerton for our part-time faculty, that having mentors in the department really came across as key to individual satisfaction. Engaging in campus and department activities strengthens individual satisfaction in working here. Having clear expectations on what someone's role is and is not in the department. Having autonomy over course content is a leading indicator of satisfaction, and also access to benefits for individuals who teach 6 units or more. A frequent refrain that we saw is the FDC. Our Faculty Development Center is really appreciated by our part-time faculty. It's very meaningful that all of those support services that are available to everyone and also promoted to our part-time faculty. Here are some of the ways that people express their satisfaction, both with mentorship and access to the FDC and its programming. This also just gives you a sense of what some of the evidence is from the SSRC work, these kind of great snippets of individual experiences and where people really felt specific things happened that allowed them to resonate with the institution and improve their satisfaction. We also know what the challenges are thanks to this research, and we know that there's lack of, the challenge that was expressed was the lack of equitable resources for part-time faculty, that our part-time faculty would like to see the resources that others have also available to them, there's sometimes a lack of connection to the department that part-time faculty feel. We heard really that the chair just has this pivotal role in helping part-time faculty understand their role in the department, but also see themselves as part of the community. We heard from our part-time faculty and in some cases that not having enough advance notice about what they're going to teach creates stress and leaves people feeling unprepared. Some individuals would like to teach more classes. We heard about compensation and questions about the adequacy of that. In some cases, part-time faculty talked about feeling disposable, that really they were sort of interchangeable with others instead of unique contributors to the department, to our students in our campus. And also that our evaluation system is not seen by many part-time faculty as truly contributing to their ability to become better instructors, to give them meaningful feedback on their work. A couple of quotes that we wanted to share with you that help us see what this means when you dig a little bit deeper about the evaluation system for part-time faculty being disconnected from practice and that sense of disposability. Where do we go from here? We have the info, we have the results from both of these really comprehensive surveys, though they are different. They are deep in the stories being told here. It's important that we spend time really being able to see what the data is trying to tell us so that the steps that I take with my team, and especially the colleges, that those steps will lead to the most meaningful, positive change. And so the aim here is to be able to share these results. We currently have a website. So how are we going to do that? What are the steps? One, we have a website that's under construction. We should be able to launch that quite soon. The website will have really useful tips in order to be able to read the data. The way that COACHE provides the data is very rich. It does, though, need some support as you just kind of look into each of the different answer sets. There's a lot of distinction across groups, both in terms of rank and then in the demographics of respondents. So we'll have those tips so you can both see the data, but also be able to do some tutorials to know how to best read the data. And in addition to that, we have a task force. So we have a task force of full-time faculty, which is composed of full-time faculty and administrators. And we have one for part-time faculty, which is composed of our part-time faculty. And the aim is that those task forces will be the primary individuals who we're supporting. So Estella will be working with them. Folks from Sue's team will be working with them. They will have access to all of the data, as will you, but they'll also be coming together, working on it over time, talking and sharing and looking at the data from multiple perspectives. Those folks who are on those two working groups will also be soliciting feedback from you. So the rooms that they're in, trying to figure out between all of the information we have, what are the areas we, not me, but truly the faculty would like to see us focus on, those reports will then be delivered to me. And then I will be the one working across the administrative teams to take the actions to make some positive improvements. And so over the next weeks and months, this process will be going on, and you will get information about how to get into the website, how to see the data, how to best connect with individuals who are on the task force. And I've asked the task forces to complete their work and make their recommendations to me by the end of spring term, and those reports will also be shared with you. Here are the members of the task forces. Thank you so much to everyone for participating. You can see we have representation across the colleges. You can see that we have, well, you can't see it as easily here, but we also have representation across different areas that our faculty are involved in and different communities that they represent. This is what the task force has been asked to do. Understand, explore the findings, identify critical areas of concern, communicate with and engage their peers, and make recommendations. And so what is your role? You will receive communication soon about how to access the website. I saw a mock-up of it this morning. It's almost getting to the point of completion, and instructions on how to read the data. And we will also send you a link. So that link will allow you to provide input, and then you'll be able to stay engaged with what's happening by reading emails, but also from your task force members. They will seek to engage you and hear your opinions and your thoughts. So they will reach out to colleagues in the colleges. They will have specific ways that they're looking for your input. But I want to make sure that it's very clear. The website and the communication you will get, even if you do nothing, will ask for your input. So you will have an opportunity to do that, and all of that input will be considered. In addition, the task force, as they're starting to look through the data, whether it's the part-time data or whether it's the full-time data, they'll be reaching out to get more input, to figure out how to make decisions. Do we focus here? Do we focus there? What might this mean? So they'll actively be engaging feedback from their colleagues as well. And I think that takes us to the end of the formal presentation. I'd be happy to hear questions and comments. I do want to end with saying, for me, when I first came, the idea of surveying the faculty was just something instantly I wanted to do. I knew about COACHE, but thanks to Sue Swarat and her team, as provost, I started receiving a lot of feedback from faculty, but I felt like what I was getting was feedback from faculty who either knew they could say things to me or who felt really strongly that there was something I needed to hear. And of course, I've worked with my leadership team and I hear those perspectives. But I've been really looking forward to the time to sit back and look at that full story of our faculty experience. And I understand it's 43%, so it's not everyone's experience, and it's 30 people. But I'm really pleased with just how well-rounded the response was. And I have looked through the data at this point, and I'm already starting to tell myself stories, and I'm having to hold back to not just want to jump in and say, oh, we should try this, or oh, we should look at that, or oh, we can do this. I think this is a critical moment in the Cal State Fullerton trajectory. You know, we're such a student-focused campus, and at the same time, we have extraordinary faculty as teachers, as researchers and creative artists. Those things to me are all part of our overall truth, but I am very ready to begin to focus on what faculty need, what faculty are saying, in order for this to be a place where faculty see themselves as a true priority, and that the stories we tell about our students are stories that are fundamentally about our faculty, and that it's part of the learning alchemy that happens where faculty are really the heart of what makes that so special. So when I see something like recognition show up as one of those areas of concern, that faculty don't feel recognized and don't feel seen, I right away feel gratitude. Because if I don't know those things, I can't use my role in this position to try to make a positive change. So there may be a lot of questions about, what exactly I'm going to do about something here. And I want to let you know, I'm specifically right now doing nothing because I'm trusting the process. I'm literally sitting on my hands right now. I am trusting that it is the exposure of this data as you all look at it, as the task force mulls it and churns it and thinks about all of the things they know to be true about Fullerton, that what is most important for us to focus on, for me to focus on, will come out of that process. And that will be step one. And as we continually engage COACHE, we'll continually evolve to be that campus that our extraordinary faculty need us to be. Thank you.
So if you have specific questions, please do go ahead and put them into the Q&A. And I will just say, as someone who did coach the first time this campus did it in recent years, I think one of the sentiments we've heard from faculty is we want surveys to lead to something, not just to do a survey. So I hope what you hear today is that commitment that it wasn't just doing a survey. It was doing a survey and then doing something with these data that come from it and thinking about what it means for our campus. So hopefully you're hearing that part of the story as well. If you do have any Q&A, please place those in the Q&A section and we'll go ahead and answer them.
I also wanted to invite Vice Provost Arate and Senior AVP Swarat to share any of their observations or answer the questions. I'm very happy to be the person sharing on behalf of the group here for the presentation today, but I do want to recognize that they are the leaders of this effort. And as people with expertise in qualitative and quantitative research, it's very appropriate that they're at the helm.
And before, if Estelle and Sue want to respond to that, there are some questions in the chat related to the website. That website has not been sent out yet. It is in final staging, and there will be a campus-wide email sent to all faculty. It'll be a public-facing website, but when that is live, so that you absolutely can go there. Also, questions were asked about library faculty. Were they included in the survey? Sue?
I believe they were not, and that was because of COACHE has a very specific definition of who to include. We were not pleased with that, I would say, but COACHE is very specific, and they want to be consistent with the definition they have used, and partly because they have only tested their survey instruments with certain population of the faculty, and they wanted to make sure they do not use that on faculty groups that they have not tested the survey on. So unfortunately, library faculty were not included.
There are a few questions related to previous surveys. I think we're really focusing here on these data and what that means, but I don't know, Sue, if you have any comment as to some changes that have come about from other surveys that have been done on the campus.
Sure. So our last time we did COACHE, I believe, is in 2010. That's before I joined Fullerton. So I cannot comment on what happened after that. Since I have joined, most of the surveys we have done are focused on the campus climate survey, and on the student side, we have done a lot of student experience surveys. So on the student side, because that's most fresh in my mind, we have done a lot of things. For example, the National Survey for Student Engagement have led to work to improve student quantitative reasoning skills, have led to assess a lot of assessment work done on student learning outcomes. The the quick surveys we do on our campus to ask students preferences about modality, about course availability, have led to a lot of actions on the college and department's part to offer more classes. So there are a lot of actions taken after surveys are done. Just some of the survey findings take longer, some are faster, depends on what data we see, and then we work with the relevant departments to get to make changes. The last time we did the campus climate survey, I believe that's back in 2014, the large scale one, that led to a presidential DEI task force, and then a lot of actions came out of that as well. I can think of more examples if you're interested. There was, Kristen, you asked me another question.
No, that was the main one. I do want to offer, someone actually asked for some clarification. We had the conversation at the beginning of this presentation about our campuses to which we're being compared. And the question was, what factors guided the choice of those comparison institutions?
So like Carolyn said, there was a committee that worked on choosing the comparable institutions. We look at several metrics, including Carnegie classification, IPED's data about the institution characteristics and student success metrics. We also looked at campus size, and also the nature of it, public, private, faculty compositions. So a lot of data points went into choosing institutions that are comparable to ours. Another factor I will also say is it depends on whether they're participating, right? They have to be to participate in COACHE in order for them to be eligible candidates.
Thank you. A few questions about the list of challenges or concerns. And the question relative to that list and that slide, were they in order of importance? What was the biggest challenge identified to the least? And just a thought about what what are you thinking when you look at those data? And obviously we want everyone to be able to see it and think those things too for themselves.
I can take a stab at that. So what areas concerned? I put things into two sort of camps as areas that we can address fairly urgently with either policy changes or programs. And then there are some other changes that are longer term or they require a longer time frame to change. So I would say that depending on where you stand on that challenge, that's where your concern might be. One of the things that we look at and the data will show is different demographic groups, rank of the faculty assistant versus associate versus full, faculty of color versus non-faculty of color, by gender too. Those are all lenses that I think, depending on the type of vision or that you have maybe for a college, that might arise to the top of a challenge or a concern from where you sit. But generally, I would say that a common refrain among the answers is, we're an institution that doesn't have infinite amount of resources. And so it's about asking ourselves, where it is that we want to allocate that so that faculty can be the best for our students.
So I know that we had a brief conversation about the task forces and the work that they are doing, and that is going to bring about a lens of what is the most thing we should celebrate the most, what concerns we have. Estelle, I was wondering if you could just have a brief few words about how the direction was given to those task force members to have them look at these data and have considerations for our own campus.
So, and you're speaking specifically about the part-time focus groups.
Yeah, and actually for both, because I think the question's coming up for both, like how do we decide what's the first thing we move forward on, the most concerning, the thing we can get to the quickest? What is that task force going to do to help us bring considerations forward?
The task force are one of the first tasks that they have is to identify the top 3 to 4 concerns or the most urgent concerns that they feel need to be addressed and develop recommendations for that. And how they are going to go about it is by soliciting input from different constituencies in their colleges. And we will also be gathering some of that input centrally. They have started to dive deep into the data and have, in the first hour and a half that we spent talking about it and going over it, some clear concerns are emerging, but that won't be decided until we also receive input from faculty. So that's the overall process. And I should say that even though we don't have survey data for part-time faculty, what you saw was a very broad overview of the findings and the summary. And we do have a much more extensive report that gives more detailed information about these findings. And the task force will be reading that in greater detail.
So Provost Thomas, I'm going to throw this one to you, but celebrate the item before I do. There's a question that came in about the FDC, and given the recognition of the value, what that was valuable and that came through in the early review of the data. What is the likelihood of getting baseline consistent funding for the FDC?
Well, that's nice that you asked me that because I know you know the answer. So FDC did receive $450,000 of baseline funding this year in the budget process. And that goes a long way to getting us to full baseline funding. So I think that you can see that the FDC, which started on one-time money some time ago, is truly just now part of, what we do at Cal State Fullerton and what we're really proud of. And that's a cabinet level decision. So that's a very good thing.
And I promise that was a real question that came in, not one I just threw into the mix. So thank you to whoever submitted that. And we are feel very happy that in the almost 50 years of the FDC, it is the first time with this provost and this cabinet that we have received a commitment of baseline funding for the work that is done. So I'll say thank you publicly for that as well. A question about compensation, and I know this is related to the part-time faculty, to one of the viewers that came through as a clear concern, and thinking about how change can come when we're talking about issues of compensation. Anyone want to take that one on?
Well, I think, these things that come up, they then lead us to do the research to see where we are relative to others. This is one of the great things about COACHE and also the SSRC, but specifically I'm thinking about COACHE, that when we get the data, it doesn't just go that the data comes to me with like a note from the COACHE people that says, fix 5 things. That's not their process. Their process is that the data is then shared with the campus, and then we are encouraged to have a group of folks come together who understand, our policies, our practices, have some experience on campus, and then they focus on several things they recommend that I or others work on addressing. So we're at the point in the process where we will now wait to see what that group comes up with, both the part-time group and the full-time group, what things they bring forward. And then those will be reports that will be available to everyone to read. And I expect and I invite hard questions about those things. And if that leads us to a discussion about compensation, we'll be having it.
And Kristen, there's a question about how the task force members were chosen. So we did receive nominations from deans, and an earlier email a week or so ago where Provost Thomas was announcing this forum, there was also a link for individuals to express interest in serving. And so as we round out the task force, we're keeping an eye not only on representation by college, but also by rank, gender, race, ethnicity, different roles in here at the university. I'm looking through that list to see how we can fill out the different task forces. And so there are some people that are on sabbatical this fall, and they've expressed interest to be a part in the spring. And so they will be joining as well. I haven't listed them yet to fully respect their sabbatical time.
So, and you were able to cover a number of questions that have come in on the Q&A. So thank you, Estella, for that. There's also a sort of a shout out and a question, and that's related to the emphasis on the fact that student success is dependent on faculty success. And so it loops back to the website. How much data will be on the website for all stakeholders, and how, again, can stakeholders that aren't participating at this moment in the task force, how can they continue to participate?
So one of the ways that Provost Thomas mentioned is we will be communicating by email. There will be a link for individuals to express and submit their input. The data is pretty heavy. I would say that even for those of us who are used to working with unwieldy data. So I will also be hosting, and I'm hoping some task force members will join me as well, hosting office hours to help faculty digest some of this and help them be able to provide well-informed input.
And we really do want, it's a fine line, right? I don't want to say to faculty, I want everybody to take on the project of digesting all of the data and going to Vice Provost Zarate's office hours. And, everyone is busy. And so the great thing about the task force is it's really their charge, and they are eager to do this work, to digest the whole of the data and provide in writing a synopsis of what it said and where they think the focus is. And I want to make sure people understand that you'll have access to that report, and that will be something that everyone can see. At the same time, if you want to go into the data and look at it and go to office hours, you will be able to do those things. That data will all be there. And something that you may find interesting as well is, as you look at the data, you can see that not all faculty are having the same experience. I know that doesn't surprise you, right? But it's not a monolithic report. This is what adds to that density that Vice Provost Zarate is talking about. So you can see that depending on your background, your racial or ethnic background, your rank here at Fullerton, or how many years you've been here, or how many units you teach, those things all contribute to the experience. It can depend on what college you're in. You'll see there are very different experiences by college. And so that's part of what we want to pay attention to. The things in the end that we can do that will help improve the faculty experience are only going to be as good as the ability we have to be specific in where some of the things that are working are, because there are a lot of strengths. And so there's things we can learn when we see faculty saying, I do feel appreciated. Really, we have very high, so we look at where is that? What it kind of appreciate, what does that mean? Where is it happening? There are good things happening we can learn from that will help us make improvements across the board. Because for all of you faculty who are here, your experience is based on the department you're in and the college you're in at the moment in time you're in. And only through this kind of a survey instrument can we both keep a hold of that and see those specific experiences. Now, of course, we can't see individual faculty, but to see those kind of subsets, subgroupings, and then also see the whole. So I think we will find things that are going to be for me to figure out how to do that involve the experience of all faculty and making improvements. And we'll see things that are specific to certain spaces or certain times in one's career on campus. And there's a lot of opportunity to learn from each other. We don't always know what's going on in one college versus another college. We'll see some departments where certain things are really working well. I think that will help us grow as a community and won't require external change.
One of the questions that came in, and I think Sue, I know we tackled this early on, was, when we choose the COACHE survey, we know that the part-time faculty under our definition and the library faculty were not included. Is there a thought to look for something where they are included?
That's I would say the primary reason why we embarked on the focus group approach, to make sure that all faculty's voices are heard. We looked through a lot of survey options, and many of the surveys out there are more about campus climate in general or satisfaction in general. And then COACHE survey is one of the few, or if not the only one, that really drills down deeply into a specific aspect of faculty experiences. And then once the website is up, the data are there, you can really go look. The questions are very detailed and very specific about the unique experience of faculty. And I think that's what we wanted. We really wanted something developed by faculty and also for faculty, right? So the information can be actionable, can be specific enough for us to generate recommendations from. And also we looked at the validity and reliability, the quality of the instrument as well. And COACHE is one of those that have been established for a long time. They shared with us in our survey selection process very detailed psychometric information, so we know that it's a trusted instrument. Another piece of it, like Carolyn said, this is a 3-year process. We benefit from being part of a group, a peer community, and we want to make sure that we're also in a peer community that's strong, that has like-minded colleagues, so that we can learn from each other, and then also use the information collectively to promote the faculty well-being for higher ed in general. So those are collectively many reasons why we chose to go with it. But that's not to say that we won't pursue an option. I think we initiated some conversations with other CSU campuses to see if there is some interest in perhaps we can develop a version of our own COACHE. We won't call it COACHE, something else, but maybe that's something we can work on in the near future as well.
Thank you. I actually have one other question that is more just a request, and that is if there's a way moving forward, we can think about including the librarian faculty and some of their feedback, and there might be a unique way we can continue to do that. I also, in response to a few questions, which I'll just go ahead and answer, I'm not supposed to do that as the moderator, but there were a few questions about feedback from CFA, Senate, things like that. Senators and CFA members were included both in the group that did some of the kickoff work, as well as continuing in the current groups that are providing feedback in this deeper dive into the data and having their eyes and ears and part of the team. So I want to assure everyone who has asked a question related to that, that those people are a part of it, but also make a note for the record that we can find a way to include librarians in the conversation.
Thank you.
So this is a question, there's one actually specifically directed to Sue, thinking about new data from the prior surveys and current data, how can we look at trends from some of the previous surveys perhaps that were done, or can we, relative to this new round of data collection?
So absolutely, we'll be looking at data across the years, across different administrations, right? The whoever submitted this questions is awesome insight there. We will be the apple to apple comparison more is actually not this COACHE survey. It's actually going to be the campus climate survey that's going to happen next spring at the entire university level. So that will be a survey instrument that we will be using to measure campus climate. And then a lot of the findings from that survey will be very comparable to the one that President Garcia did back in 2014. And we'll have a lot of conversations and comparison contrast there. The nice thing about the COACHE survey, like I just said a minute ago, it is very specific about unique experiences of the faculty. So it actually complements what's going to happen in the spring on the climate survey that the faculty will also be an important part of. So we can look at how faculty feel in general on campus about their sense of belonging and whether they feel like they're part of the campus, etc. And then look at the specific data about very unique aspects of their experience, because the two things are related, but then they explain each other, they help complement each other. So we think these data points collectively will really give us a good picture of faculty experience here.
So we are nearing the 10 minutes to the hour mark where we usually start to close, and I don't know if there are any closing remarks, Provost.
I want to thank everyone for making the time to come here. You know, it is, we look at data all the time, and as far as what comes across my desk, the kind of data that I tend to be looking at is about student performance. It's about enrollment and enrollment management. It's about GI 2025. All of those kinds of data are important. The system that we work in tends to feed that information through. What this is an opportunity for us to spend significant time really looking at the data of our faculty and what they are experiencing. And I know I can see in some of the comments, you know, but people are saying, well, you know, we all knew this already. I really want to ask you to go to look at the data if that's what you think, because there are some very specific points of feedback, right? Our faculty are really looking for interdisciplinary collaborative opportunities, especially when it comes to research and creative practice. I think that's a really important finding. There are a number of those things where it is looking at the data, but then making these collective experiences of our faculty and some of the things people really think should happen here. It wouldn't be hard if it happened here. If only this happened, it could happen here. Those things, if we see them, we can actually make those changes. So for me, what this data does is it allows us to put the experiences of our faculty front and center next to the experiences of our students. And the more that those things are collective, I'm sharing this with cabinet, we're sharing this with you, it's going to be shared with the task force. I'm talking about this with Senate exec, talking about this with the Senate chair, talking about this with the deans. Those are the ways that each of us may have a piece of what can make the change, right? But I understand the reports are coming to me, and I am the one who will make sure that the actions that follow this make positive change. And I very much believe that that's something I can do. If I didn't think that was possible on our campus, if I thought people weren't in favor of improving the experience for faculty, I would not have set us all on this COACHE and SSRC journey. I'm really looking forward to honoring the time of the faculty who participated.
Thank you. And there are no additional questions. I thank you for your time. And Estella, do you have any closing remarks?
I just want to echo Carolyn's comment about we've seen this before. One of the strengths of the survey and the focus group is that we have very detailed information and very specific information, so that if faculty are unsatisfied with teaching, it's really not up to us to decide what that means. We have instruments that tell us exactly what are the items and what are the things that faculty like and things that they don't like, and what are the things that some faculty like and what are the things that some faculty don't like. So it's actually very good instruments to help us guide our actions forward.
And there are a variety of people in the Q&A, which I know the whole audience can't see, expressing thanks and expressing thanks in advance for providing the data for review and allowing folks to have some agency and involvement in looking at the data and participating is appreciated. So thank you to all of you.
And you're welcome. We have extraordinary faculty. Thank you.